what you should know before preparing your pitch. The bad news here is that at the end of this discussion, you won't have just one pitch. You'll have a number. The good news is that it'll be easy to assemble and likely be quite simplified from what you probably were thinking about today. This is because each pitch should literally be customized. Yeah, I know that sounds like a lot of work, but it really isn't. Before preparing your pitch, and each pitch you give, you should know 3 objectives for giving that pitch and 3 things you'd like to be remembered. Actually, it would be great if it was 2, but no more than 3. First, who is the audience for this pitch? Is it an associate, a partner, a group of investors, a pitching competition? For instance, if you're pitching to an audience on demo day, that'll have a different desired outcome and therefore different content than talking to investors in a face-to-face investment meeting. Next, what is the desired outcome for delivering that pitch? Do you want another meeting? Do you want to get someone more senior into the room for the next meeting? Do you want to get the listener so excited they tell you that they're going to tell their colleagues about you? Do you want to start a discussion? And no, you cannot tell me, I want them to write me a big check. Lastly, what do I want the listener to take away from this? Imagine you just gave a pitch to an associate of a fund, and they meet up with a partner at the water cooler or the coffee maker. The partner says, "What was that meeting you just had?" Or, "What was interesting about the pitch you just heard?" What would you like the associate to say in 3 sentences to the partner? Because that's all they have. They're just getting some water. "Well, it was actually interesting because blank, blank, blank." Fill in the next sentences. What you want the associate to say is what you want to stick out in their mind and be able to express in a couple of sentences to that partner as he fills his water cup. You need to build your pitch around what you want them to take away. You want the partner to say, that sounds interesting, or it sounds compelling. I'd like to hear more about that. When can we set up a meeting with this guy? Your challenge and number 1 goal at every step of this series of investor conversations that you're often beginning with a pitch is to engage the investor's interest and attention so the investor asks you more and more questions and wants to learn more and more about your startup. That means they're engaged and heading in the right direction for an investment. You want them to want to take the next step. Remember, I said that you would build a customized pitch for every presentation. What the most experienced startup teams do is they create a library of slides. They ask the questions above, and then they do one more thing. They research the specific fund, its portfolio, and the people who will be in the room. What are they like? What have they already been interested in? What does the website say about what they invest in? And they put together a set of slides that specifically corresponds to the time frame, the focus, the interests of that particular recipient of the presentation. Take a look at the portfolio. See how they're presenting. Try to find any presentations from portfolio companies or articles written by them or the fund manager. There's little that'll impress a fund partner more than you saying, I read your article on XYZ and how things should happen that way. I'm kind of interested in that. I'd like to tell you how we address that. Or, I'm impressed with the investment you made in X, and we're similar to that because we do Y. So assemble the specific slides to meet the time, audience, and objectives you've determined, and tailor it with what you have found in your research. You'll hear me say this a lot. Investors don't invest in a pitch or a deck. They invest in you, your team, your innovation, your business opportunity, and the potential return on capital that they get. To that end, here are some don'ts when you're assembling your deck. Don't try to put your entire business plan in your presentation. We call that death by PowerPoint. Don't use too many slides. I've seen presentations that have 30 slides for a 5-minute pitch. More is not better. More is more death by PowerPoint. Don't have more than 20 words in a slide. Try to use pictures to get across your points. Remember, you're trying to paint a story and have them listen to and understand you. The best way to do that is with pictures. Never use font less than 28 points. Don't put a bunch of technology and features in your slide deck. Your customers don't buy features, and your investors don't invest in features. Your customers and your investors buy solutions. They may want to know, and you may want to indicate, that you've got some very important and unique technology or features, but don't get stuck down that rabbit hole of showing off or describing those features. You get one slide for your technology, one. You can put the rest in an appendix. If you happen to walk into a room full of techies, you can take and go to the appendix. But this isn't about your technology. It's about your company, the business, and the investment. You want your listeners to remember 2 or 3 things. That's it. So figure out what those things are and stick to them. Focus on them. Repeat them. Which means don't tell your viewers 25 things. You don't want them saying to the partner at the water cooler, "Yeah, they told me a lot of stuff. Seemed kind of interesting, but I can't remember." Or, "All I can tell you is they have a lot of stuff to say and nothing stands out." This is particularly true if you're pitching to an investor or a group of investors at a beginning, in the middle, or at the end of a presentation of others. What will make your pitch stand out if, let's say, you're part of 15 pitches? A pitch is just a tool to engage your investor, to get their attention, to illustrate your value, investability, and to engage in a conversation. Are you starting to get a pattern here yet? You may spend a bunch of time developing your pitch as a consequence of this discussion. You may prepare, you may get ready, everything's set to go, and then you might find that you never open it when you actually get in front of your funder. You may just engage in an interactive dialogue instead. Don't freak out and don't push going to your pitch. This is a great outcome. Remember, they invest in you. Once you know your pitch, you can have a conversation, and that's the most important thing you can do. The more you prepare for an official pitch, the more comfortable and confident you'll be in engaging in a dialogue directly with your investor. It's about building relationship and trust. As we covered in the Thinking Like an Investor module, the more confident you are in your presentation, the more confident your investor will think you are in your business. If you're mired in details and features of your product, or tentative in your presentation or response to questions, the investor will, consequently, consciously or unconsciously, think that you're focusing on the wrong things, or not confident in your business, or are therefore not a great manager. As you're making your pitch, it's critical you think about your audience or the investors that you're talking to. Ask yourself, what is their perspective? What's on their mind? What's the information I'm sharing that doesn't matter to them? What questions would they like me to address to move this conversation forward? Even though you're speaking from the entrepreneur's viewpoint, keep thinking like an investor. The last thing I'll share with you about pitching to an investor is more about the theme of telling them what they want to hear, not what you want to talk about. I'm not a technologist. In fact, even though I've run some fairly large technology companies, I'm known as what they call a technical pygmy. More importantly, I don't want to know about technology. I want to know how technology solves a problem or delivers on a desire to the simple average person. I can't tell you how many times entrepreneurs prattled on and on about their technology and their features. They never asked me if I was interested in it. I want to know about the team, how they think, what's an important experience or insights that they have that others don't. And of course, I want to know about the business. Remember my definition of a business? How the company's going to bring in more money than it spends? A simple concept that I can't tell you how many people don't get. And I want to know when. And with how much investment. And what's my return on investment likely to be? And whether I can trust you and your team. Do I believe you? Here's something interesting. I can count on my hands the number of times an entrepreneur came into my office to pitch their business and started off the conversation by asking me what I wanted to hear about. Or ask me, of all the presentations you've heard, which ones stand out and impressed you and why? Or ask me, what are the best investments you've made and what makes them great and makes them stand out? What are you looking for now? If you had a magic wand and I could come in with a great presentation, what would it look like? So here's a little secret that only you and I know. You can ask investors questions before you begin your pitch. Not only is it okay, but it will differentiate you and make you stand out right out of the gate. I'm more interested in the kind of questions you ask because it tells me a lot about you. Then you can completely fashion your presentation on exactly what they want to hear, which brings you closer to the next step in the investment process. Or it might just let you know right away this is not the right fit and there's little likelihood that this investor is going to invest in your business. That's okay. In fact, when that happens to me as an entrepreneur, I'd go back and I'd say, honestly, this doesn't sound like a good fit. My company's in the mobile space, and you just indicated that you're not really interested in that space. Who do you know who would be interested? Can you make an introduction? One of my largest investors came about this way. A few takeaways from this discussion so far. Own your destiny. Think like an investor. Listen carefully. Tell your investor what they want to hear, not what you want to tell them. Remember your key objective and the couple of things you want them to walk away with. And remember, most importantly, your key objective is to engage in a conversation toward a relationship, not try to sell them on investing in your business on a one-shot process through death by PowerPoint.